Hey there, everybody. It's Pastor Jason. I'm glad you could join me for daily devotionals where we're in Numbers. We're in Numbers 9 and 10. You might be able to hear Associate Pastor Greg chomping on his bone. You'll forgive me for that, or him. Anyway, let's get right to it. Numbers 9, verse 1. The first of the month of the second year after their departure from the land of Egypt, the Lord told Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, the Israelites are to observe the Passover at its appointed time. You must observe it at its appointed time on the 14th day of this month at twilight. You are to observe it according to all its statutes and ordinances. So Moses told the Israelites to observe the Passover, and they observed it in the first month on the 14th day at twilight in the wilderness of Sinai. The Israelites did everything as the Lord had commanded Moses. But there were some men who were unclean because of a human corpse, so they could not observe the Passover on that day. These men came before Moses and Aaron the same day and said to him, "We are unclean because of a human corpse. Why should we be excluded from presenting the Lord's offering at its appointed time with the other Israelites?" Moses replied to them, "Wait here until I hear what the Lord commands for you." Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, when any one of you or your descendants is unclean because of a corpse or is on a distant journey, he may still observe the Passover to the Lord. Such people are to observe it in the second month on the 14th day at twilight. They are to eat the animal with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They may not leave any of it until morning or break any of its bones. They must observe the Passover according to all its statutes. But the man who is ceremonially clean is not on a journey and yet fails to observe the Passover is to be cut off from his people because he did not present the Lord's offering at his appointed time. That man will bear the consequences of his sin. If a foreigner resides with you and wants to observe the Passover to the Lord, he is to do so according to the Passover statute and its ordinances. You are to apply the same statute to both the foreign resident and the native of the land. On the day the tabernacle was set up, the cloud covered the tabernacle and the tent of the testimony, and it appeared like fire above the tabernacle from evening until morning. It remained that way continuously. The cloud would cover it, appearing like fire at night. Whenever the cloud was lifted up from the tent, the Israelites would set out. At the place where the cloud stopped, there the Israelites camped. At the Lord's command, the Israelites set out, and at the Lord's command, they camped. As long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, they camped. Even when the cloud stayed over the tabernacle many days, the Israelites carried out the Lord's requirement and did not set out. Sometimes the cloud remained over the tabernacle for only a few days. They would camp at the Lord's command and set out at the Lord's command. Sometimes the cloud remained only from evening until morning. When the cloud lifted in the morning, they set out. Or if it remained a day and a night, they moved out when the cloud lifted, whether it was 2 days, a month, or longer. The Israelites camped and did not set out as long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, but when it was lifted, they set out. They camped at the Lord's command, and they set out at the Lord's command. They carried out the Lord's requirement according to his command through Moses. Numbers chapter 10. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Make 2 trumpets of hammered silver to summon the community and have the camp set out. When both are sounded in long blasts, the entire community is to gather before you at the entrance to the tent of meeting. However, if one is sounded, only the leaders, the heads of Israel's clans, are to gather before you. When you sound 2 short blasts, the camps pitched on the east side are to set out. When you sound short blasts for a second time, the camps pitched on the south are to set out. Short blasts are to be sounded for them to set out. When calling the assembly together, you are to sound long blasts, not short ones. The sons of Aaron, the priests, are to sound the trumpets. Your use of these is a permanent statute throughout your generations. When you enter into battle in your land against an adversary who is attacking you, sound short blasts on the trumpet, and you will be remembered before the Lord your God and be delivered from your enemies. You are to sound the trumpets over your burnt offerings and your fellowship sacrifices, and on your joyous occasions, your appointed festivals, and the beginning of each of your months. They will serve as a reminder for you before your God. I am Yahweh your God. During the second year, in the second month, on the 20th day of the month, the cloud was lifted up above the tabernacle of the testimony. The Israelites traveled on from the wilderness of Sinai, moving from one place to the next until the cloud stopped in the wilderness of Paran. They set out for the first time according to the Lord's command through Moses. Here we have them. Finally, 2 years later, they're moving on. The military divisions of the camp of Judah with their banners set out first, and Nashon, son of Amminadab, was over Judah's divisions. Nathanael, son of Zuar, was over the division of the Issachar tribe, and Eliab, son of Helon, was over the division of the Zebulun tribe. The tabernacle was then taken down, and the Gershonites and the Merarites set out, transporting the tabernacle. The military divisions of the camp of Reuben with their banner set out, and Elizur, son of Shedeur, was over Reuben's division. Shelumiel, son of Zurishaddai, was over the division of Simeon's tribe, and Eliasaph, son of Deuel, was over the division of the tribe of Gad. The Kohathites then set out, transporting the holy objects. The tabernacle was to be set up before their arrival. Next, the military divisions of the camp of Ephraim with their banner set out, and Elishama, son of Ammihud, was over Ephraim's division. Gamaliel, son of Pedahzur, was over the division of the tribe of Manasseh, and Abidan, son of Gideoni, was over the division of the tribe of Benjamin. The military divisions of the camp of Dan with their banner set out, serving as rear guard for all the camps, and Ahiezer, son of Ammishaddai, was over Dan's division. Pagiel, son of Ochran, was over the division of the tribe of Asher, and Aharah, son of Enan, was over the division of the tribe of Naphtali. This was the order of the march for the Israelites by their military divisions as they set out. Moses said to Hobab, son of Moses, father-in-law of Reuel, the Midianite, "We are setting out for the place the Lord has promised. I will give it to you. Come with us, and we will treat you well, for the Lord has promised good things to Israel." But he replied to him, "I don't want to go. Instead, I will go to my own land and my relatives." "Please don't leave us," Moses said, "since you know where we should camp in the wilderness, and you can serve as our eyes. If you come with us, whatever good the Lord does for us, we will do for you." They set out from the mountain of the Lord on a 3-day journey with the ark of the Lord's covenant traveling ahead of them for those 3 days to seek a resting place for them. Meanwhile, the cloud of the Lord was over them by day when they set out from the camp. When the ark set out, Moses would say, "Arise, Lord, let your enemies be scattered, and those who hate you flee from your presence." When it came to rest, he would say, "Return, Lord, to the countless thousands of Israel." Numbers 9 and 10. The way it finishes, right? Return, Lord, to the countless thousands of Israel. They just counted them. And yet here he's just being poetic. So we have the Israelites setting out on their first 3-day journey. They would have been living in the wilderness of Sinai for 2 years. And I love the imagery of the cloud coming down and going up, right? And they were to follow the cloud and only go and as far as the Lord would go, right? And then they would camp and rest and abide with the Lord. And then the cloud would go up and move along, and then they would move with the Lord. It makes me think that that's how we're to operate with the Holy Spirit, right? We are to move where he moves. We are to rest when he calls us to rest. We are to do when he says to go, we are to go. May we be a people who go and make disciples, baptizing them, teaching them all I've commanded you. So, I hope numbers 9 and 10 are a blessing to you. We're going to read about the Israelites and their, let's call it, wrestle with faith out in the wilderness as they make their way to the promised land. I hope you are, again, I hope you're blessed. Have a great day. Be a blessing to those around you. I will see you tomorrow.